So once again, we're at the Isle of Man Motor Museum here at the top of the island. Can't come all this way without delving into the history of Peel Engineering, a company which of course was based here on the island and is best known for its P50. But there's much more to Peel Engineering than the P50, and Darren Cunningham is the man who's going to tell us all about that. Darren's one of the directors here at the Isle of Man Motor Museum. How did it all start and how did it all end?
Well, so Peel started in the late 1940s and they started off making boats, fiberglass boats. Very quickly they expanded what they were doing into motorcycle fairings and then into kit cars effectively. And this behind us here is a Peel P1000, one of their early kit cars from the 1950s. This particular car is on an MG chassis. It was designed for basically anything with around a 7'6" wheelbase, so Morris, Ford, things like that.
And do you know roughly how many P1000s were made?
I've heard, again, all sorts of numbers. I've heard up to 100. We have got 3 in our collection in various sort of stages of repair, disrepair. I've seen photos in relatively recently of maybe 2 other cars, but maybe less than 10 survive. Throwing a number out there.
Yeah, okay. So we've got a tubeless steel chassis. Well, a steel chassis.
Yes.
Whatever it was based on.
Exactly.
And then we've got plywood floors.
Yeah, so this one's plywood floors. Fiberglass body. Every one is slightly different. So one of the other cars, the chassis we have, the body we have, is on a Ford chassis. It has a windscreen rather than these little aero screens. So people built them up as they felt like fitted their style. So there was little hard tops available. They were, they were going up against that sort of Austin Healey MG market was what they were going for.
And when did the P1000 make its first appearance?
So I think it was around 52, 53 they started on these, so fairly shortly thereafter.
Okay, so the P1000 came out 52, 53, and then what was its lifespan? How long did it was it offered?
I think it was probably offered for far longer than they ever actually made them.
Yeah.
Peel had a tendency to keep these things going, and they moved on to other projects quickly, just as a matter of course. But I think if you call them and they still had the moulds, they put one together for you.
Okay, so they started off doing boats. They moved into car manufacture. They also did motorcycle fairings.
Yes.
So these are some later fairings.
These are some sort of later ones from the 70s.
Around the walls here, we've got the earlier fairings.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And then what came after the P1000?
So after the P1000, they started looking at smaller cars. So there was a one-off called the Manx car, which doesn't survive anymore. There's photos around, but the car itself doesn't survive. And then they moved into the P50, which became the iconic Peel Engineering product.
Right. Well, the museum's got so much Peel stuff. We're in a very echoey Peel room here, and we're going to be back here later, but now we're going to disappear into the main hall where the P50 is on display. So we've got a P50 that's up and running, we've got an exploded view, yep. And then we've also got some other delights in store. So we'll see you next door in a moment. So we're now in the main hall for more Peel Engineering goodness, and included in that Peel Engineering goodness is another P1000, one of the 3 in the collection here, as it would have been delivered to the customers back in the 1950s. And we've also got probably the only car that Peel is known for producing, the P50. We've got 2 P50s.
Yes.
Are they the same?
So this one here is a modern replica P50 that we rather than assembling it as a complete car, decided to make an exploded one of, so you can see how these things were assembled, and there's some differences between it and the production cars, but it's pretty close, and it really does kind of explain how they were made.
And is that the same as that which is an original production car?
So the car, this blue one here behind me, is an original P50 production car. It's one of the earlier ones. There was sort of slight differences over the lifespan of the car. This one's been part of the collection now since 2020-ish. We in the height of COVID and the lockdown, we had to get this car brought to us from Austria, which is where it had been in the collection for many years.
Did someone bring it hand luggage on the plane?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Because you could do that. Yeah. World's smallest?
Yes, world's smallest production car.
Right, okay.
Powered by a little 49cc DKW motor, effectively a scooter engine. Handle to pull start it, 2-stroke. Little bit of an unusual thing to drive, can be a little bit twitchy, but it's good fun. Puts a smile on everyone's face when they see it out and about.
And it's only known because of the Top Gear antics, isn't it? If Top Gear hadn't driven one, nobody would even know it existed.
I think it would be known in as much as microcars are always quirky and people do like to see them. But yeah, Top Gear was what it sort of exploded its popularity around the world.
So how many P50s were made and what was the production span?
So around 50, 55 were built. Started in 1962, went through to about 66, and of that production run, somewhere around half survive. A few kind of keep coming out of the woodwork over the years, you know.
And by the time they signed off production of this, of course, its replacement had already arrived. And here it is. I bring you the magnificent Peel Trident. Is this just a two-seater version of the P50?
In some ways, it shares a lot of mechanical, you know, the running gear with it, but it is really an evolution of the P50, and it is the slightly more practical version. As you say, two-seater, it became the world's smallest two-seater production car. It even has a very small boot in there, so it's, you know, it became practical.
A very small boot?
Yes.
You're not going to get a lot in there?
No, definitely not.
I am intrigued. How the hell did you get into it?
So, Peel, you know, decided the sensible thing was that this whole front just comes up. The whole top comes up. So I press a button here, and I just lift it all up.
Right, okay, that's very sensible. I wonder why they didn't just go for an opening canopy like a Messerschmitt, where it just hinged down one side. But it's quite a neat solution though. I mean, it works well.
It does actually provide reasonable access into the car as well. Can get a little bit warm in there on a sunny day, obviously, with this sort of greenhouse effect.
So then we've got that incredible air conditioning unit mounted on the side.
Well,
there.
exactly, yeah, that slot that opens.
Exactly, yeah, like a window in the side. That yeah, be interesting at toll booths. So this came out, well, production started in 1965. Yeah. It made its debut sometime around then.
Yeah.
And then how long did it last?
So it was about a year, I think these were in production.
Just a year?
Just a year, maybe 18 months, something like that.
Okay.
They built more of these than they did of the P50, maybe as many as 80. Similar survivor numbers, those 25, 30, something like that. There was even a four-wheeled version done in period with electric motors as well.
I bet that was even slower than this was.
Probably.
What's it like to drive?
It's fun. It's really actually fun. You feel like you're on display when you're driving, but it's quite nice.
Well, you're driving a goldfish bowl, a mobile goldfish bowl.
It feels quite fun though, quite nippy. Yeah, it just takes a bit of getting used to, but it's actually a far nicer car to drive than the P50. The handling is much better.
Yeah, somehow it looks like it should be, just because it looks wider, but it probably isn't much. So that's the Peel goodness here. We're going to go back into the separate Peel room, and what are we going to find in there?
So we're going to look at the Peel Viking in there.
Okay, so goodbye Trident and hello Viking.
Exactly.
Right, so goodbye Trident, hello Viking.
That's it.
Looking very much like it's Mini base. It's a Mini, but it isn't a Mini. So what is the Viking? So
the Viking basically came out after the Trident, and I think it was Peel almost returning to their sort of kit car roots. Basically, they branded it as the Viking Sport GT, and it was designed to use Mini running gear. You can see the door aperture here is just designed to take Mini doors straight into it as well.
So it's a complete new shell.
Yes.
And you just bolt the mechanicals of your dead Mini in.
Well, hopefully a live Mini, but yeah.
Well, yes, probably a very rusty Mini.
Yes.
So when did the Viking make an appearance?
So again, late 60s, so I've seen some from 67-ish, I think is the earliest I've seen. This particular car, as you'll see, is an unfinished one. This is actually taken from a mould, which we have as part of our collection as well, but taken from a mould at a later date than that original production run.
So this is a recent moulding, but from the original mould, or
exactly.
Recently produced body shell. Okay, so the Viking came and went, nobody really noticed by the sounds of it.
It's no one, well, it didn't have a huge impact apart from in one very specific way, which was BMC became aware of it and were impressed by the workmanship, because Peel were always very good at what they did. And BMC were impressed by this, and it led them onto, or it fed into a project that they were beginning to look at themselves. Sorry.
Go on, you can't leave it there. We're in suspenders. We all want to know what that project was.
Well, it was at this period BMC were trying to expand production of the Mini overseas.
Right.
And one of the ways they were looking at doing that was fiberglass shells for production Minis.
And it just so happens
We might happen to have one of those recently discovered as part of our collection.
Okay, well, at the risk of this video getting far too long, we're going to look in a separate video at Peel and its glass fibre minis and how that fed into a separate project with BMC/British Leyland, whatever they were at the time, and their exploration of making plastic minis. So we'll see you in that separate video, but for now, it's farewell to Peel Engineering. Although there is a postscript, isn't there? Because Peel Engineering is kind of still going, kind of not going.
Yeah, so Peel Engineering was sort of resurrected a few years ago. People might have seen it on Dragon's Den, and that's a UK-based company that's building replicas. The Isle of Man company, Peel Engineering Company, the name was retained by one of the employees for a long time, and a few years ago he actually signed it over to us, so the Isle of Man Motor Museum is now the custodian of the Peel Engineering Company name.
So you heard it here first. Next up, car manufacturer at Derby in the Isle of Man.
I don't know about that.